The call came at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday.
I remember because I was standing at my kitchen counter in Queens, staring at the rain hammering against the window, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The kind of gray April afternoon that makes you feel every one of your 62 years.
When my phone rang, I almost didn't answer.
Mrs. Hartman. The voice was unfamiliar. Male. Cautious.
Yes, this is David Chen from Premier Timepieces on Madison Avenue.
I'm calling because I think there's been a mistake. My stomach tightened. Madison Avenue. That's where Jacob and I bought his watch 30 years ago. The Rolex Submariner he wore every single day until the cancer made his wrist too thin to hold it. What kind of mistake? I heard myself ask. There was a pause. The kind of pause that changes everything. Your son and his wife just sold us a Rolex Submariner. 1995 model. They said you gave it to them as a gift. But Mrs. Hartman, he cleared his throat. I remember you. I remember your husband. And I remember that watch. You brought it in 2 years ago to have it cleaned after he passed. You told me you'd never sell it. You said it was all you had left of him. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the counter, my knuckles going white against the laminate.
What did you say your son Marcus and his wife Vanessa, they were just here?
20 minutes ago. They sold the watch. Got $18 for it. Cash. They seemed happy. They mentioned something about a resort and Turks and Caicos. Mrs. Hartman, I have the watch right here in front of me, and I'm looking at the inscription on the back to Jacob, forever yours. I couldn't breathe. The Rolex was in my bedroom, in the top drawer of my dresser. In the leather box, Jacob kept it in. Behind the photographs and the old letters and the reading glasses he never got to use again. At least that's where it was supposed to be. Mrs. Hartman, are you still there? I'm here, I whispered. But I wasn't. Not really. I was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere darker. Somewhere that tasted like metal and felt like falling. I haven't opened the case yet, Mr. Chen continued. Something felt wrong. Your son seemed nervous. His wife did all the talking. She was very insistent that you'd given it to them, that you wanted them to enjoy it, that you'd moved on. But Mrs. Hartman, I've been in this business for 30 years. I know the difference between a gift and a theft. Theft. The word hung in the air like smoke. My son. My only child. The boy I raised alone after his father walked out when he was 3. The boy I worked 2 jobs to put through college. The boy who cried at Jacob's funeral and held my hand and promised me he'd always be there. That boy had just stolen his stepfather's watch. No, not just stolen it. Sold it. For a vacation. Mrs. Hartman, I'm going to hold on to this watch. I'm not going to process the sale. But you need to know they have the cash. And they left here talking about booking flights tonight. Tonight, I repeated numbly. I'm sorry. I thought you should know. The line went dead. I stood there in my kitchen phone, still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone blend with the sound of rain. And then, very slowly, I walked to my bedroom. The dresser drawer was open. Just a crack, like someone had closed it in a hurry. The leather box was gone. In its place was a note. Handwritten. Vanessa's looping, careless script on the back of a grocery receipt. Mom, we borrowed the watch. You don't wear it anyway. We'll bring you back something nice from the trip. Don't worry. Love you. XO. Don't worry. I read it 3 times. Then I sat down on the edge of my bed. The bed I'd shared with Jacob for 15 years. The bed where he died holding my hand, whispering that he loved me, and I felt something crack open inside my chest. Not sadness. Not even shock anymore. Something colder. Something that felt like clarity. They thought I wouldn't notice. Or worse, they thought I wouldn't care. They thought Jacob's watch, the last thing I had that still smelled like him when I opened the box late at night, was just some old piece of jewelry collecting dust. They thought I was weak. Forgettable. Done. I looked down at my hands. At the simple gold band I still wore on my left ring finger. At the age, spots, and the veins, and the strength that nobody seemed to see anymore. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, something had shifted. I picked up my phone, and I started making calls. Because here's what Marcus and Vanessa didn't know about me. I wasn't just Jacob's widow. I was also the woman who'd survived an abusive first marriage, raised a child alone in the Bronx in the ADS, and built a career in corporate law before anyone thought a woman from my neighborhood could do it.
I was the woman who'd fought for everything I ever had.
And I was the woman who'd learned the hard way that family is everything until it isn't.
They wanted a vacation, fine. They were about to get one they'd never forget. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in Jacob's old armchair by the window, watching the city lights blur through the rain, and I let myself remember. The smell of coffee. That's what brought it all back. Jacob used to make it every morning at 5:30 a.m. before his shift at the EMTA. Strong and black, the kind that could wake the dead. I'd stumble into the kitchen still half asleep, and he'd already have my cup ready, 2 sugars, splash of cream, exactly how I liked it. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "Another day, Angela. We got this. We got this." That was our phrase. Our promise. Through everything, the lean years, the overtime, the nights when the bills spread across our kitchen table, like a losing hand of cards, we got this.
When I met Marcus's wife Vanessa 6 years ago, I wanted so badly to pass that promise on.
To welcome her into our small circle. To show her what family meant. I remember the first Sunday dinner I cooked for them. Pot roast garlic, mashed potatoes, green beans, the way my mother used to make them. I set the table with Jacob's good plates, the ones we only used for holidays. I wanted her to feel special. Wanted her to know she mattered. She barely touched her food. Spent most of the meal on her phone, scrolling through something that made her smile in a way I never could. But I kept cooking. Every Sunday. Even after Jacob got sick. Especially after Jacob got sick. I remember one night, maybe 3 months before he died, I was at the hospital with him. It was 2 a.m. Marcus called, frantic. Vanessa had the flu, he said. Could I come watch her? He had an early meeting, couldn't miss it, and she needed someone. I looked at Jacob, sleeping fitfully in his hospital bed, tubes running from his arm, his skin the color of old newspaper. Go, he whispered, eyes still closed. Family needs you. So I went. I spent that night on their couch in Astoria, making Vanessa tea, bringing her Tylenol, listening to her complain about her boss, her mother, the apartment being too small. At 6 a.m., I drove straight back to the hospital. Jacob never said a word about it, but he knew. He always knew. After he died, I sold my car to help Marcus and Vanessa with their security deposit on a bigger place. They wanted Park Slope. Needed more space, they said. We're planning for the future. I took the subway everywhere after that. Didn't mind. My knees did climbing those stairs at the 7 train stop, but I told myself it was worth it. Told myself I was investing in my son's happiness. I paid their con bill one winter when Marcus was between jobs. $1,700. I took it from the small savings account Jacob and I had built, the one we'd planned to use for that trip to Ireland we never got to take. I babysat their dog every time they wanted a weekend away. A neurotic terrier named Coco who barked at shadows and peed on my rug twice. I never complained. I showed up.
That's what you do for family.
You show up. But here's the thing, I'm only now beginning to understand the thing that's been sitting in my chest like a stone since that phone call. I was the only one who believed that there were signs. Small things, I told myself, didn't matter. The way Vanessa would sigh when I called, the way Marcus stopped asking how I was and started every conversation with what he needed. The Christmas they forgot to invite me over until my neighbor asked where I was going for dinner, and I had to pretend I'd chosen to stay home. The birthday card I sent Vanessa last year that she never mentioned. Not even a text. But the worst part, the part that makes my hands shake, even now I knew. Somewhere deep down in that place where we keep the truths we're not ready to face, I knew I was becoming invisible to them. Useful, but not loved. A bank account with a heartbeat. And I let it happen because I was so afraid of being alone. If you've ever given everything to someone who later turned away, you'll understand this part. That peculiar shame that comes with realizing you taught people how to use you. That you smiled through your own erasure because you thought love was supposed to hurt a little. Thank you to everyone who helps keep these stories alive. Every word you share, every act of kindness helps protect those who still believe in family. Who still believe that sacrifice means something. I reached into my dresser drawer that night, my arthritic fingers tracing the empty velvet box where Jacob's Rolex had lived for 2 years. The box was burgundy, worn at the edges. Still smelled faintly of his cologne when you opened it, Bert, the cheap kind he bought at Duane Reedy. Now, it just smelled like dust. A tear fell into the empty box, darkening the fabric. And something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally snapped clean. I showed up at their apartment in Park Slope the next morning, the one I'd helped them afford. It was 8:47 a.m. I know because I checked my watch 3 times on the subway, trying to steady my breathing, trying to prepare myself for a conversation I'd never imagined having. The building had a doorman now.
He smiled at me like he knew who I was, Marcus's mother, the nice lady who used to bring groceries.
He buzzed me up without asking.
3rd floor. Apartment 3C. The door with the expensive wreath Vanessa had posted on Instagram last Christmas. I knocked. Vanessa answered in designer lounge, where the kind that costs $200 and is meant to look effortless. Her hair was in a perfect, messy bun. She was holding a green juice. "Oh," she said. Just that. "Oh." Not "Hi, Mom." Not "What a nice surprise." Just "oh," like I was a package she wasn't expecting. "I need to talk to Marcus," I said. She didn't move from the doorway. "He's getting ready for work. Then I'll wait." Something flickered across her face, annoyance, maybe your calculation, but she stepped aside. Their apartment was bigger than I remembered. Bright. Expensive furniture I didn't recognize. A new TV mounted on the wall. The kind of place that smelled like success and scented candles. Marcus came out of the bedroom, fumbling with his tie. When he saw me, his hands froze. "Mom? Hey, where's your father's watch?" The words came out steady. Calm. I'd practiced them on the subway over and over until they felt like armor. Marcus's face went pale. He glanced at Vanessa, who had positioned herself on the couch, legs tucked beneath her, looking at her phone, like this was none of her concern. "Mom, I can explain. Where is it, Marcus?" He ran his hand through his hair. The same gesture he'd used since he was a boy when he was caught in a lie. We needed the money, okay? We have expenses. The apartment Vanessa's student loans were trying to save for you sold your stepfather's watch. It was just sitting in your drawer." His voice cracked, defensive. "You never wear it. You never even look at it. It's been 2 years, Mom. Dad's gone." The room tilted. "Dad's gone," I repeated slowly. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" Vanessa sighed from the couch. Loud enough for both of us to hear. "Honestly, Angela, I think you're being dramatic. It's a watch. We got 18,000 for it. We're using it for something that will actually make us happy. A vacation. Some time to decompress. You should be happy for us. I turned to look at her. Really look at her. She met my eyes with something close to contempt. It was just sitting there. Vanessa continued, her voice matter-of-fact, like she was explaining something to a child. You're holding on to the past. It's not healthy. Marcus and I are building a future. We deserve to enjoy our lives. Deserve. That word hung in the air between us. I paid for this apartment, I heard myself say. My voice sounded strange. Distant.
Marcus flinched.
Mom, that was a loan. I never asked you to pay it back. Well, yeah, but I sold my car to give you that money. I took the subway for 2 years with bad knees so you could have Park Slope. The silence that followed was suffocating.
Vanessa shifted on the couch.
Uncrossed her legs. Recrossed them. We didn't ask you to do that, she said quietly. But I heard it. The subtext. The blade beneath the words. That was your choice. Your sacrifice. Don't make it our burden. Marcus was staring at the floor now, his tie still hanging loose around his neck. It's just stuff, Mom, he mumbled. Dad wouldn't have cared. He would wanted us to be happy.
Something inside my chest cracked open.
He's dead, I said. My voice was shaking now. Jacob is dead. And that watch was the last thing I had that still felt like him.
The last thing that proved he existed.
That we existed. Mom and you sold it for a vacation. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out.
Vanessa leaned toward him, then her voice low, but not low enough.
She thought I couldn't hear. Or maybe she didn't care.
Let her be upset, she whispered.
In a few years, we'll have the house anyway. The house. My house.
The words hit me like cold water.
I looked at my son. At this man I'd raised alone, worked 2 jobs for, loved with everything I had. And I didn't recognize him. Get out, Marcus said suddenly, his voice tight. I blinked. What? Just go, Mom. Okay, you're making this into something it's not. You're being manipulative. This is why we don't. He stopped himself. But the damage was done. This is why we don't. What call visit, love me. I stood there in their bright, expensive apartment, the one I'd helped pay for, and felt myself disappearing. Not dying. Disappearing. Like I'd never mattered at all. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that their betrayal made you question your own worth, you're not alone. Thank you to everyone who helps me tell these stories.
Your support keeps this space alive for those who still believe that truth somehow will always find its way.
I walked to the door. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. Cold. Certain. Enjoy your vacation, I said quietly. And I left. I don't remember the subway ride home. One moment I was standing outside their building in Park Slope staring at the wreath on their door. The next, I was on the 7 train watching my reflection flicker in the dark window as we rattled through the tunnel. My face looked old, hollowed out.
Like someone had reached inside and scooped out everything that mattered.
When I got to my apartment in Sunnyside, my keys slipped from my hand twice before I could get the door open. My fingers wouldn't cooperate. They felt numb, disconnected, like they belonged to someone else. Inside, the silence hit me like a wall. I'd lived alone for 2 years since Jacob died, but this was different. This wasn't the comfortable quiet of solitude. This was the silence of erasure. The kind that rings in your ears and makes you wonder if you're even real anymore. I stood in my living room and looked around at my life. The couch Jacob and I bought at a clearance sale in 1998. The coffee table with the water ring from where he always set his mug without a coaster. His armchair by the window still angled toward the TV even though no one sat there anymore. The shelf where the Rolex box had lived? Empty now. Just dust and a faint rectangular outline where the burgundy velvet had protected the wood beneath. I walked over and touched that space. My fingers traced the shape of absence. The silence pressed down harder. I made tea I didn't drink. Stood at my kitchen counter watching it go cold the way my coffee had the day the pawnshop owner called. Was that only yesterday? It felt like years. My phone buzzed on the counter. Marcus. Mom, don't make this a big deal. We need space right now. I stared at the message for a long time. Read it 3 times. 4. Don't make this a big deal. I turned the phone face down. That night, I sat in Jacob's chair, pulled my knees to my chest even though my arthritis screamed in protest. The apartment building around me hummed with life. Mrs. Chen upstairs running her bath, the Ramirez family next door, laughing at something on TV. Someone's music thumping through the walls. Everyone else was living. I was just here, existing in the spaces between other people's joy. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster. 17. I'd never noticed before. 17 small fractures spreading out like branches, like the way a family breaks apart so slowly you don't notice until it's already shattered.
The next morning, I went to the grocery store.
Stood in the produce section holding a tomato, trying to remember if I needed tomatoes. A woman from my building, Carol, the one with the poodle, walked past me, smiled that tight smile people give when they pity you. Angela. How are you holding up? The question felt loaded. Like she knew something. Like everyone knew. I'm fine, I heard myself say. She nodded, unconvinced, and moved on. Holding up. As if I were a structure on the verge of collapse. Maybe I was. I bought the tomato. Left it on my counter. Watched it rot over the next week because I couldn't bring myself to eat. Food tasted like cardboard. Sleep felt like drowning. Time moved differently, too slow and too fast all at once. My phone stayed silent. No calls from Marcus. No texts.
Not even the performative thinking of you message he used to send on Sundays.
I'd been erased. Not violently. Not dramatically. Just quietly removed from their lives like an old piece of furniture they'd donated to Goodwill. One night, I don't know which one, they'd all started bleeding together. I found myself standing in front of my bedroom mirror. Who was this woman staring back at me, 62 years old? Gray hair I'd stopped coloring after Jacob died. Lines around my mouth that used to come from smiling. Hands that had cooked 1,000 meals, worked 1,000 shifts, held a dying husband's hand, and raised a son who couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. When had I become so small? If you've ever sat in a room so quiet it started to echo your thoughts, you'll understand this silence. Thank you to those who help keep these stories alive. Your kindness helps give voice to people who've been forgotten, who sit alone in their pain, waiting to be seen again. I sat back down in Jacob's chair that night, wrapped in his old cardigan that still smelled faintly of him if I pressed my nose into the collar.
Jacob, I whispered into the dark.
I failed our family. The words hung in the empty room. No answer came. Just the hum of the refrigerator. The distant wail of a siren on Queens Boulevard.
The sound of my own breathing. But somewhere deep beneath the numbness, something else was stirring.
Not hope. Not yet. But something harder. Something that had been sleeping for a long time.
Something that was starting to wake up.
I opened my laptop. And I started looking. Not for forgiveness. For truth. The call came 3 days later. I was sitting at my kitchen table staring at my laptop screen when my phone buzzed.
The pawn shop.
Mr. Chen, again. Mrs. Hartman, sorry to bother you, but your daughter-in-law was just here. My heart stopped. She was asking about jewelry appraisals, specifically an antique ring set, Art Deco style. She said you'd given her permission to have it evaluated for sale. The room tilted. My mother's rings. The ones she'd brought from Poland in 1952. The ones she'd pressed into my palm on her deathbed and made me promise to keep in the family. I didn't give her permission, I said quietly. I didn't think so, Mr. Chen replied. Mrs. Hartman, I think you should check your belongings. I hung up and walked through my apartment like it was a crime scene.
The silver candlesticks from my dining room hutch gone.
The pearl brooch Jacob gave me on our 5th anniversary missing from my jewelry box. Small things. Things I hadn't touched in months. Things they knew I wouldn't immediately notice. But I noticed now. Everything was coming into focus with terrible clarity. I sat down at my laptop and opened my email. Logged into the old tablet I'd given Marcus 2 years ago when he said his had broken. The one that still auto-synced to his accounts because he'd never bothered to disconnect it. I scrolled through his drafts. And there it was. A real estate listing. Incomplete.
Still in draft form.
Charming vintage townhouse in Sunnyside. 2BR/1BA. Original hardwood floors. Ideal for investors or quick flip. Motivated seller. My address. My house. The one Jacob and I had bought in 1987. The one we'd painted together, fixed up together, made into a home. They were planning to sell it. And at the bottom, in a separate document attached to the email thread, was something worse. A power of attorney form. With my signature. Except I'd never signed it. If you've ever found truth in the quiet moments after pain, you know what this part feels like. Thank you to everyone who supports these stories. Your kindness keeps hope alive for people still finding their voice after betrayal. I sat there for a long time, my hands folded in my lap, staring at the screen. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't crying. I was thinking, calculating. Seeing the entire picture for the first time, not through the lens of love or hope, but through the cold, clear lens of truth. They hadn't just stolen a watch. They'd been systematically looting my life, testing how much they could take before I noticed.
Before I fought back.
And when the watch wasn't enough, when $18,000 for a vacation wasn't enough, they'd moved on to the next phase. The house. My home. The last thing I had that proved I'd built something. That I'd mattered.
I picked up my phone and made a call.
Not to Marcus.
Not to the police.
To my old colleague from the law firm.
The one who specialized in elder fraud and estate protection. The one who'd told me years ago over drinks after a case, Angela, if someone ever tries to take advantage of you, don't get mad. Get documentation.
Susan? I said when she answered.
I need your help. Angela, what's wrong? Everything I said. And I need to fix it quietly. There was a pause. Then tell me what you have. I told her. All of it. The watch. The jewelry. The forged power of attorney. The real estate listing.
When I finished, Susan was quiet for a long moment.
Angela, she said finally, her voice low and steady, we're going to bury them. No, I said. We're going to expose them. Because that's the thing about truth. You don't need to scream it. You just need to let it speak. I didn't sleep that night. But for the first time in weeks, it wasn't because of pain. It was because I was planning. There comes a point when silence stops meaning defeat. It becomes preparation. I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad, the kind Jacob used to bring home from work, and I started writing. Every missing item. Every lie. Every date I could remember. The Rolex sold April 23, for $18.00. The silver candlesticks noticed missing April 26. My mother's rings, Vanessa asked about them April 28. The forged power of attorney dated March 15, a month before they sold the watch. This wasn't impulsive. This was systematic. I took photos of everything. The empty spaces on my shelves. The jewelry box with its missing pieces. I forwarded myself the email with the fake real estate listing the forged signature, the entire paper trail they'd been stupid enough to leave on a synced device. Then I called Susan. I need to know what we're dealing with, I said. Legally.
She didn't hesitate.
Come to my office tomorrow. Bring everything. At 9 a.m., I was sitting across from her in a conference room in Midtown surrounded by glass and steel and the kind of quiet authority I'd forgotten I once belonged to.
Susan read through everything.
Her face got harder with each page.
Angela, she said, finally pushing her reading glasses up into her hair. This is elder financial abuse. The forged signature alone is a felony. If they're liquidating your assets without permission, if they're planning to sell your house, she stopped. This isn't a family dispute. This is a crime. The word hung between us. Crime. My son was committing crimes against me. What do? I ask. You protect yourself first. Then you decide how far you want to take this. I went home and changed my locks. Called a locksmith who came that afternoon, a quiet man who didn't ask questions. The sound of the new deadbolt clicking into place felt like a door closing on one life and opening on another. I opened a new bank account, transferred my Social Security, my pension, everything into an account only I could access. I called Mr. Chen at the pawn shop. The Rolex, I said. How much to buy it back for you? Mrs. Hartman, $18,000. What we paid. I'll be there tomorrow. I used the last of my savings, the money I'd been keeping for emergencies. But this was an emergency. Getting back Jacob's watch wasn't about the money. It was about refusing to let them erase him. When Mr. Chen handed me the burgundy box, my hands trembled. I opened it right there at the counter. The watch was exactly as I remembered. Heavy. Real. Still smelling faintly of Jacob's cologne trapped in the leather band. Thank you, I whispered. Mr. Chen nodded. Your husband was a good man. Some things shouldn't be sold. I installed cameras. 2 of them. One facing my front door, one in my living room. The kind that sent alerts to my phone. The kind that recorded everything. For years I mistook generosity for love. Now I'm learning the quiet math of self-respect. My phone started ringing on the 3rd day. Marcus. Then Vanessa. Then Marcus again. I let it ring. Each unanswered call felt like reclaiming a piece of myself.
The voicemails piled up. Mom, why aren't you answering, Angela? We need to talk about your accounts.
Something's wrong with the transfers. Mom, this is ridiculous. Call me back. I sat at my kitchen table drinking coffee, listening to my phone buzz against the wood. It's funny how silence can sound like thunder when guilt starts to echo. On the 4th day, Susan called. I've drafted a cease and desist. If you want, we can also file a police report for the forgery. Or we can send this first, give them a chance to return everything, and back off quietly. Send the letter, I said. Let them know, I know. That night, I gathered everything. The photos, the emails, the voicemails from the pawn shop, the forged documents. I put them all in a folder, physical and digital, and I labeled it simply evidence. I didn't need them to hear me.
My silence had already spoken.
The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text. Vanessa, we're coming over tonight. We need to talk about your future. I read it twice. Then I smiled. It was the first time I'd smiled in weeks, because they still thought I was confused. Weak. Manageable. They had no idea what was waiting for them. I texted back the locks have been changed. You're not welcome in my home. Then I called Susan. They're coming, I said. Tonight. Good, she replied. Let them come. Let them see what happens when they underestimate you. I hung up and looked around my apartment.
My fortress.
My home. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to save me. I was saving myself. And the storm I'd been preparing it was finally ready to break. They showed up at 7:43 p.m. I watched them on my phone, the new security camera feed showing Marcus and Vanessa walking up to my door, Vanessa holding a folder, Marcus looking pale and tight-jawed. They knocked. Persistent. Demanding. I waited 5 seconds. 10. Then I opened the door. Mom. Marcus tried to smile. It didn't reach his eyes. We need to talk. Come in, I said. They exchanged a glance, surprised maybe that I wasn't resisting. That I seemed calm. They didn't know calm was my new weapon. I led them to my living room. The same room where I'd sat in the dark weeks ago, drowning in silence. Now it felt different. Brighter. Mine. Vanessa sat on my couch like she owned it, crossing her legs, arranging her expression into something between concern and condescension. Marcus stood fidgeting with his phone. Angela, Vanessa started, not Mom. I noticed we've been talking and we're worried about you. Living alone at your age in this big house, it's not sustainable. We think it's time to consider other options, Marcus added quickly. Assisted living, maybe. Or selling the house and moving somewhere smaller. Easier to manage. Easier for who I asked. Vanessa's smile tightened. For you, of course. We're trying to help. Like you helped by selling Jacob's watch. The room froze. Marcus's face went white. Mom, we explained, you explained nothing. You stole it. Sold it. Lied about it.
Vanessa leaned forward, her voice taking on an edge.
We didn't steal anything. You're confused. You've been confused for a while now. That's why we're here. You need help managing your affairs. My affairs. I let the words hang. Is that what you call forging my signature on a power of attorney? Marcus's eyes went wide. I don't know what you don't. My voice cut through his lie like glass. Don't insult me by pretending. I reached beside my chair and pulled out the folder Susan had prepared, laid it on the coffee table between us. One by one, I placed the documents down.
The forged power of attorney.
The fake real estate listing. The time-stamped photos of missing items.
The pawn shop receipts.
The emails. The voicemails. Each piece of paper landed with the weight of truth. This, I said, pointing to the power of attorney, is forgery. A felony. This, pointing to the real estate listing, is attempted fraud. And this, I held up the pawn shop receipt, is theft.
Vanessa's face had gone from confident to pale to flushed.
You can't prove I already have. I looked at Marcus. The pawn shop owner kept records. Video. He remembered you both. And he called me. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Marcus sat down heavily, his hands shaking.
Mom, please. The Rolex is back in my possession. I continued, my voice steady as steel.
I bought it back. With my own money. The money you were planning to take. I leaned forward. You sold your stepfather's last memory for $18,000. For a vacation. For a weekend in Turks and Caicos, while I sat here wondering what I'd done wrong.
Wondering why my own son would betray me.
We needed, Vanessa started.
What you needed, I said, my voice dropping to something quieter, harder, was to remember that I'm not senile.
I'm not helpless, and I'm not your, TM. The silence that followed was absolute. Marcus had his head in his hands. Vanessa was staring at the documents like they might disappear if she looked hard enough. My lawyer has filed a police report, I said, for the forgery, the theft, and the attempted exploitation. And I glanced at my watch, 7 minutes to, officers will be here to discuss it with you. You wouldn't, Vanessa hissed. I already did. Marcus looked up, his eyes red. Mom, please. I'm sorry. We made a mistake. We'll fix it. Give back the money you spent, return the jewelry you were planning to sell, undo the year you spent systematically stealing from me. My voice cracked just slightly. You made me feel crazy, Marcus. You made me doubt myself. You made me think I was the problem. A knock at the door. Sharp. Official. Vanessa stood up fast, her chair scraping. This is insane. You're insane. Sit down, I said. Something in my voice made her freeze. I walked to the door. Opened it. 2 NYPD officers stood in the hallway, badges visible. Mrs. Hartman, yes. Thank you for coming. I turned back to look at Marcus and Vanessa. My son was crying.
His wife was trapped between the couch and the door, her face a mask of disbelief and rage.
And me, I felt nothing but clarity. Officers, I said quietly, these are the individuals mentioned in my report. As they stepped inside, as Vanessa started protesting, as Marcus stammered explanations that sounded hollow even to him, I walked to the window. The city stretched out below, millions of lights, millions of lives, all fighting their own battles. I'd fought mine. And I'd won. Not with violence. Not with cruelty. With truth. And sometimes that's the most powerful weapon of all. The police didn't arrest them that night, but they took statements, examined the documents, asked questions that made Vanessa's voice go higher and Marcus's face go paler with every answer. By the time they left, it was past midnight. Marcus and Vanessa stood in my living room, like strangers in a foreign country, lost and disoriented. Mom, Marcus tried one more time. His voice was broken. Small. Please. We can fix this. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, this person I no longer recognized, and I felt something close to pity. But not enough to change my mind. You should go, I said quietly. They went. The days that followed were quiet. Legal. Methodical.
Susan filed the restraining order.
Marcus was prohibited from coming within 500 feet of my home or contacting me directly. Vanessa was charged with attempted elder fraud and theft. The district attorney's office took it seriously. Apparently, cases like mine were becoming epidemic in the city. I didn't have to do anything but tell the truth. The truth did the rest. Within 2 weeks, their world began to collapse in ways I never orchestrated. Vanessa lost her job. Someone, maybe a paralegal, maybe a court clerk who knew someone had mentioned the case at a networking event. Her company, a boutique PR firm in Tribeca, couldn't afford the association. They let her go quietly, citing restructuring. Marcus was placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation.
Turns out forging documents in your personal life raises questions about your professional integrity.
Who knew their landlord in Park Slope? The apartment I'd helped them secure found out about the legal troubles and declined to renew their lease. Legal, apparently.
Something about maintaining community standards.
I heard all this through Susan, who heard it through the efficient grapevine of New York legal circles. I didn't celebrate. I just listened. After the verdict, silence became my favorite sound.
It was the sound of justice finally breathing.
One afternoon, about a month later, I was having coffee at the diner on Queens Boulevard when I saw them. Marcus and Vanessa loading boxes into a U-Haul parked